how different is your focus on Africa from the other Western media organizations?
This is a very good question, and we always try to emphasize on our idea, on our mission, why we are broadcasting our news differently from other international media outlets. I'm not going to mention them, but we as TRT World, we try to give voice to the voiceless, especially when you're talking about the voiceless. Here we focus more on the global south. The global south, particularly the African countries, the Asian countries, or the Middle East. You have a lot of countries which are, or lots of societies, people who are voiceless. There might be other international medias whose agenda might be to follow the colonial masters' pathway in terms of reporting how those countries are aiding. In a sense, they are trying to kind of rescue them from the quagmire, from the challenges they're facing, showing them that we are the one taking care of you, even then and now. But then we want to change this narrative because if you check the other side of the coin, it's not the real facts that is happening. It's not the real matter that is ongoing in those countries. So we try to give voice to the voiceless people. We try to find the people who need to talk to international audiences, who need to talk to the international bodies. We want to deliver their messages. And especially when we see that, other Western media, particularly, going into those African countries, reporting something which is not the real facts. So we try to give facts and figures, like I said, to counter those narratives. And how you can counter those narratives is given the platform, is giving the space to those people. You talk to them, you reach out to them, you have in fact, face-to-face conversation or, dialogue. You ask them the real sense of what they are experiencing, and you ask them for what they are looking for. And I think through that, instead of trying to misinform people, the way people think about those society is by reaching out to those society and talking to the people, and giving the people the chance to talk to the international audiences themselves, than you framing what they are not telling the world.
Yeah, Usman, I would like you to justify, how would you justify the fact that some of those Western media organizations, even though you have not mentioned name, are trying or are even following on the footsteps of their colonial, of the colonial masters, their forefathers, say Britain, France, probably so on and so forth? How would you justify that those guys are not fair in their reporting, are not balanced in their reporting, are not impartial in their reporting, but they are also just treating us like their own slaves, and yes. Something like that?
Well, I think one of the real facts is trying to forget what has happened in the past. The Western medias, they always try to cover up what has happened in the past, which is historically, people who read or who attended schools have known about the colonial masters, the colonialism itself, the damage it's brought to many African countries or Asian countries or the Middle East. So trying to cover up all those, bad history, I think is one of the reason why we can say that they are not telling the real story. And of course, anything that has happened in the past, there must be a ramification of what has happened in the past is still happening, or what we call the post-colonial era is still, existing in African countries, due to the fact that there was a colonialism, and now the era has changed, of course, to post-colonialism. And the way these people either they've stole, you know, the richness of the country. They try to, you know, stole the resources of the country, not telling the real facts, because I don't expect a Western media to tell you that we once came as colonial masters, we stole your identity, we changed your identity, we changed your language, and now we are imposing our ideas, the way you talk, the way you dress, the way you socialize with your, you know, society. I don't expect the Western media to tell you this.
Well, is it fair? Is it fair, Malam Usman, for you to accuse the contemporary Europeans of what their forefathers have done? Is it fair as an international relations expert?
Well, I'm not saying they are the one, the current Europeans or current Western leaders are the one who colonize African countries, but it's a history. It's a history to tell the world that this is what has happened in the past, not accusing the current leaders. Of course, they have to accept what their forefathers have done, and what, in order to counter this, is by trying to bring an awakening, you know, to help those African countries to face the consequences they are facing now, the consequences of what their forefathers have caused. It's by working together. This is what the way I want to put it. It's not an accusation. Accusation will never solve anything. But then
so
they have to. Yes. What I'm saying
is that we normally don't see stories about the atrocities committed by the colonial masters in Africa on the international media, on the Western media channels, say the BBC, CNN, France 24, and so on and so forth. Is that what you're saying? Plain and clear.
This is what I want to say. And what I want to add is that the current leaders or the current Western administrations should try to work together with the African countries or Asian countries or the past colonial, you know, colonized countries, to work together to address the real challenges they are facing today, not in order to add more challenges to them. And we've seen some leaders going to Africa, even currently. The French president went to Africa accusing other countries of trying to misinform or spread disinformation about those Western countries. I think open accusations is not, of course, the solution. You try to focus to tell the people that let's work together in order to bring solutions to the consequences you are facing, because I mean, in the past, it's a history, even though you are not the one who has done it, but then your forefather was responsible for that, and you try to make that picture look clean and better. That's my suggestion.